the National Endowment for the Humanities, bringing you the stories that define us.
I see the world differently than most people. I have an eye condition that alters my depth perception. Sometimes things feel like an optical illusion or appear flat, almost like a picture. I can't really tell the heights of objects or how far or near things are to my position. And I mainly navigate using light and shadows, so everything can look different depending on the day or the weather. Makes being at the Montana Capitol uncomfortable. When I'm in the building, it feels like I shouldn't be here. Everything feels imposing and intimidating, almost as if the architecture itself is looking down on me. Being a foster kid, I often feel ignored by my government, and being here reminds me of that. I've heard how other people have felt excluded from the Capitol too, but I know that some people don't share that perspective. Sometimes, I wonder how other people see it.
I personally feel like it's a really grand, beautiful space, and that it's my space.
I love the Capitol building. It's such a cool combination of old and new. And it really is got great architecture and great emphasis on all the things that were important about the Capitol through all of the years. So I think it's great.
I can see how it could feel intimidating or a symbol of power. It's too grand, it's not for us, but once you get over that sense of being intimidated and you walk across the threshold and you realize, yeah, I feel like this is ours.
The Capitol is my place of business, so it's an office. It is a place to meet legislators, and you get to see the legislature at work every day. During session, it's one of my most favorite things to watch, to go down and see in the House and the Senate people learning, voting, and representing us.
The reason Montana needed a capital, of course, is tied to its achievement of statehood in 1889. Of course, it needed a physical place to house the operations of government. Originally, in 1892, there were 7 communities that vied to become capital. No place got a majority of the votes, so it came down to a runoff in 1894 between Helena and Anaconda. Of course, Anaconda was a company town for the Anaconda Mining Company, and Helena had been the territorial capital. So it was kind of a banking center. There were lots of pretty wealthy people here. It was a very heated, very vitriolic contest. Marcus Daly, who was head of the Anaconda Company, of course, advocated for Anaconda to become the capital because that would greatly benefit him personally and his company. William Clark championed Helena and said that, no, Helena needed to be the capital because Anaconda was so horrible. They didn't pull any punches with what they said about each other. Helena depicted Anaconda as being under the thumb of the Anaconda Company, saying that this one extremely powerful, influential, important company would have a stranglehold on Montana politics if the capital were located in Anaconda. The people in Anaconda and their supporters said, Helena's just full of a bunch of snobs and rich people, and they don't have any, they don't relate to other, ordinary common Montanans, and our interests won't be represented if it goes to Helena. Helena won that election, so 1894, Helena becomes the permanent state capital, and work can begin on a building that will house government, provide the physical operations necessary, but also make a bold visual statement about Montana's willingness and ability to assume its rightful role as a full-fledged state. They wanted something Montanans could be proud of, something Montanans could identify with, and something that said to people from other states in the Union that, we're here and we belong here and we're ready to go and be part of this nation. And, we're equipped physically to do that, but we also have the iconography, the symbols, the art and architecture that says not only where we came from, but where we want to go. It's not the largest by any means, but I certainly think it's up there with the prettiest. And I think part of that definitely has to do with the artwork and the fact that it tells a Montana story, and you can come here and you can learn about the past and what people in Montana at the time, what they valued and what they saw as being significant from their past. I think largely it still functions the way it always did. I think hopefully most Montanans feel welcome here, like they can come in and explore the Capitol and see the artwork and watch the legislature in action and feel at home and feel welcome.
The way I view the Capitol is shaped so much by my life experiences and who I am as a person. But what I've really learned is that different perspectives is a key part of what this building was supposed to represent. It was the people's house, a place where people from all backgrounds with completely opposing views could come and try to better the state. But with a modern lens, it's easy to see that representation is sometimes lacking. The building itself tells a history in which many are sidelined or misrepresented. I'm critical of the way history is shown in this building, but that's because I want it to uphold the promise it made to Montanans when it was first built.
When they started selecting the artwork, I think the idea of inclusion or representing was not, I think that would have been a fairly foreign concept to them. I don't think it's something in the way that we think of it, I don't think it's something they would have taken into account. I think they did, to some extent, take it into account in the Rotundo, where they wanted different types of Montanans, the people that they thought at that point represented our past. And so I think to some extent they were being inclusive, but I think it was a very Eurocentric viewpoint of who should be included.
Thinking about the time the Capitol was built and that historic context and who it represented. American Indians weren't citizens yet. That didn't happen until 1924. Then women couldn't vote yet. And so you think about who was engaged in our political system was white males. And so the original building, that's who it was designed to work for. It was interesting times for the tribes. A lot of students were getting sent away to boarding schools. Religions, the ceremonies were outlawed. It was a very difficult, challenging time. There was a lot of racism and discrimination. And so around that time period, things weren't that good. But yet, cultures, languages, traditions, ceremonies survived. I think we've become more inclusive just by what we've done here in the Capitol with some of the imagery. regarding American Indians. So I think that is progressive. You know, it's kind of symbolic how we've come along as a country. I love the one in the House of Representatives just because it's so massive. And the fact that the Salish are in the front and Lewis and Clark are in the back. I think Charlie Russell is very intentional on that. And to me, that is not putting the white explorers as the main guys, but it was putting the Salish as the main people. And so I really appreciated him doing that. And so I think that's probably one of my favorite pieces. And it's so big too. And it just looks cool. You know, just thinking about the design and the pictures and the imagery, it's like all the engines presented in a historic sense, you know, and not brought up to today. And I think that is interesting, you know, kind of captured in time, but, you know, who were they back then when the building was built? What we're seeing now is a more inclusion of contemporary, you know, portrayals of American Indians. And to me, what is really powerful, and it makes me feel really good when I walk by the building, is to have that new tribal flags monument right out in front of the Capitol. I don't think any other state has that. And so that is more of a recent development where American Indian people have taken a more active role in Montana politics, which is great.
During the 60s and, well, 50s and 60s, architecture changed. People wanted to get rid of the old and do new. They weren't really interested in keeping a lot of the historic integrity of the building. And so they didn't, because a lot of things disappeared and then we brought it back. But we were able to look at, you know, old photographs to bring back the integrity of this space. I think what I got out of it was during the restoration is just being able to take that vision of the original architects and bring back some of those qualities that retain that historical integrity. And history doesn't stop at a certain period. I mean, we felt we had to restore this to a certain period just to bring back its integrity. But, you know, really, history just keeps going. And you really should celebrate that too. Some changes aren't good, but, you know, it also is part of the history and you have to respect that.
One of the things that the Capitol does for us is it gives us a place to honor people and to show the world and Montanans who we think is important, what we think is important. When you walk up that landing and there's Jeanette Rankin on one side and Wilberforce Sanders on the other, they're just two of the people that we're honoring. Jeanette Rankin was a suffragist, and she's best known for being the first woman to serve as a representative in Congress. She joined other legislators in voting against World War I, and she actually was the sole representative to vote against the U.S. entry into World War II after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And then on the other side, you have Wilberforce Sanders, and he is best known as one of the leaders of the vigilantes. But vigilantes are really extra-legal hangings, especially in the very early days when Wilberforce Sanders was involved. There was no law enforcement, and they were trying to create some kind of law enforcement apparatus. But vigilantism continued in Montana long after we had police officers and county courthouses and jails. There was someone that was taken from the jail here in Helena and lynched by a vigilante mob. So he's another symbol of Montana and what we stand for. And so I just think that that's interesting to have the two of them standing side by side, and pacifism on the one side and vigilantism on the other.
I am just walking through for the first time since I was about 16 when I was a page in the Senate. Actually, it's been really interesting to walk through the halls, and I'm reading all of the descriptions of the famous people, you know, like Montanans of note, and there's a lot of female Montanans listed in the hallways, which I never noticed before. So it's been really cool to read some of that stuff this morning and just get kind of infused with like the vibrancy and the energy of how powerful and strong Montana people are.
The National Women's Suffrage Constitutional Amendment passes in 1920, but Montana women received the right to vote in 1914, so it's 6 years before the National Amendment. Most Native women were not allowed to vote until 1924 with the passage of the Indian Citizenship Act. And as part of the commemoration of women's suffrage in Montana, there were 2 legislators that pushed through a bill to authorize new art in the Capitol. And they also wanted to focus on women as community builders. They were really interested in showing women's roles and their significance to the state. I think it's really important to have the women's murals here to bring everyday women into the Capitol and to recognize the contributions of everyday people and to realize that this Capitol is for us and about us and we belong here and the work that's done here is our work. I feel like the women's mural in part symbolizes that.
The original intent of the building was to unite the citizens of the newfound state, to be a place where democracy can shine, where history is celebrated alongside hope. Since the founding of the state and the construction of the Capitol, so much has changed. Our history has grown since then. History, it isn't stagnant. It's ongoing. I used to think the way I saw the Capitol prevented me from ever being a part of it. But now I've learned that different perspectives can move history forward.
You could compare it to how we are as a democracy, you know, that we're always improving and getting better. Thinking about the Capitol and the state of Montana, you know, we're always working on getting better.
The National Endowment for the Humanities, bringing you the stories that define us.